We'll discuss some Inyane Mila, and specifically the issue of the role women do or do not play in Mila. In other words, a woman obligated in the midst of Mila, and maybe if we have time, can a woman be a mohel? But we'll discuss in terms of based on the Gemara in Kiddushin, and Daf Chav Tes, the Gemara quotes a pasuk, I believe in PARSHA Vayera. It says, "Vayamo Avraham es Yitzchak beno," and Abraham circumcised Yitzchak his son. And the Gemara learns out, and the Kasher Tziva also, like the way God commanded him. So the Gemara learns out, "Oso velo osa." The Torah says he commanded Abraham to do the circumcision on Yitzchak, but doesn't say he commanded Sarah. So from here the Gemara learns a woman, a mother, is exempt from on her obligation, or on the obligation of her son. It's the father's obligation and not the mother's. That's what the Gemara says. Kasher Tziva oso velo osa. Abraham and not Sarah. So Tosfos over here, Divrei Amaska oso velo osa, asked the famous kasha, a famous question. Why does the Gemara need a pasuk, a verse in the Torah, to exempt a woman from the obligation of bris milah on her child? V'yem tomar lama likra. What do we need a pasuk for? Typically, the mitzvah say shazman gramahu. Say simple. We know the Mishnah tells us elsewhere that a woman is exempt from mitzvahs asay man grama. The Mishnah over here in Daf Chav Tes and among other places in Brachas, we know women are obligated in mitzvahs that are not time-oriented, but a time-oriented mitzvah, mitzvahs asay man grama, women are exempt. So Tosfos says, "Tepele the mitzvahs asay man grama, shanimo b'shmini lilei daso v'noshim peturos." The Tosfos says that we know women are exempt from his time-oriented mitzvah. Milah has to be done on the 8th day, and therefore it's a time-oriented mitzvah, so hence a woman's exempt. So Tosfos says, what do I need a pasuk to exempt a woman from obligation on her son's milah? Let's learn it out simply. Of course she's exempt. It's a time-oriented mitzvah. V'yesh lomar, Tosfos answers, Kavid the biyom hashmini b'hala ein lo hefsek lazman gramahu. So Tosfos is quoting a shita, I believe in the Gemara Yavamas, Rabbi Lezer, Bar Shimon, someone, he's quoting Amanda Amar in Gemara Yavamas, that is of the opinion that everyone agrees on the 8 days the bris milah. What about on the night time? So we paskin, you can't do a bris milah at the night. Payom hashmini, bayom velo v'layla. But there's an opinion in the Gemara that you can do it at night. After bris milah, they say you could do it that night, the night after, according to that opinion. So according to that opinion, milah is not as man grama, since it could be done all the time, day and night. It could be done after day 8. And therefore it's not as mangrama. Therefore, according to this opinion in Tosfos, I need the pasuk oso v'lo osa. But Tosfos says, "Im tomar my mitzvah say shazman gramu the ein moen ella." This can't see the prince is more. The ein moen, or better writing, ella biyom. To the east of a parakara. What do you mean it's not as mangrama? This is mangrama. It can only be done during the day. Yeshomar, the east, the Asr Kamanda Amar, Hasam, the Mila Shalo Bizmana, the Hagas Ben Yom Ben Balayla. As I mentioned, Tosfos is working with the opinion that you could do a bris milah Shalo Bizmana at night and day, and therefore you could do it all the time. Hence it's not as mangrama, and therefore you need a pasuk osa v'lo osa. Rabbi Kiva Eger asked, what about What about Shabbos? You can't do a meal on Shabbos, so it should still be a Zman Grama. It should be a Zman Grama because you can't do a meal on Shabbos. So, Rabbi Kivan, so what? It's true, it's usher to do a meal on Shabbos, but since post facto, but yet if you did the Milah, it's still Chal. You might be a Machal of Shabbos, a desecrator of Shabbos, but the Milah is done. And therefore, that gets into a separate whole issue among the Achronim on what is the definition of a Zman Grama. Is the fact that if something is usher to do, does that make it a Zman Grama? Some would say yes. But Rabbi Akiva Eiger clearly doesn't work that way. Rabbi Akiva Eiger says, even though it's usher, but if it works, so it's not considered a Zman Grama. So therefore, again, the Gemara says, the Torah commands Avraham and not Sarah. And the Gemara makes a drasha, Osa v'lo Osa, that women are exempt in the performance of the child's circumcision, to ensure that it gets done. So Tosfos says, what do I need a pasuk for to say it's a time-oriented mitzvah? And bottom line, it's not time-oriented because it's working with the opinion that we don't follow, that a meal shall go b'tzman and no heges b'yom and v'layla. It works during the day and night. What about Shabbos? If you do it, it's good. So therefore, the bottom line to A1 is, Mila is not a Zman Grama, therefore I can't exempt women based on a time-oriented mitzvah. Hence, women are obligated, hence women are exempt based on the pasuk Oso v'lo Osa. That's the answer number one. Tosfos in Megillah and Daf Chaf gives another answer. Tosfos in Megillah raises, we know there's a women are exempt from mitzvah aseh shazman grama. That's stama mitzvah aseh, lulav, shofar, sukkah. But what's unique about the mitzvah of milah, and there's only, usually to get a punishment, you have to violate a negative commandment. But there are two mitzvahs aseh that if you nullify them, if you're mavatal the mitzvahs aseh, you're liable to kares. Either you die young, your kids die young, either way it's not something we want. So it's limited to Milah and Karban Pesach. So Tosfos suggests that when would I have thought that a woman exempt from mitzvah seisha zman grama? That's on the classical mitzvah, lulav, sukkah, shofar. But mitzvah seisha yishbo kares, i.e. milah, and therefore it's kind of like dumya de lav. We treat it like a lav, and therefore I think a woman is obligated because since it's we don't want to. That's why, in fact, it's a famous kasha. The Gemara asks that when Rosh Hashanah falls out on Shabbos, when Sukkot falls out on Shabbos, when Purim falls out on Shabbos, we say no shofar, no lulav, and no Megillah on Shabbos. Gzeira Shema Yavireno Da'ar Amas, but you might come to carry 4 Amas in Rishus HaRabim. You might to lead to desecration of the Shabbos. And then, it's a whole discussion. How do the Chacham have the power? The Gemara in Yavama, Sheish Koach La'akor Dvar Torah B'Shei Ve'al They have a power to tell you not to do things based on, well, Sasur or Pasuk in the Chumash. So there's a famous kasha of the Rishonim and as well as the Achronim. What about Milah? Why don't we apply Gzeira D'Rabba by Milah? So the different answers. One being that Milah is the 8th day. So it's not like that by the other days it's a Sveika D'Yoma, by Milah maybe it's different. So one of the answers given by Milah is it's an Aseh Sheyesh Bo Kares. Since it's an Aseh Sheyesh Bo Kares, so therefore we treat it differently. We don't even want to push it off like we do shofar, lulav, etc. and Purim. So therefore that's what Tosfos is getting at. Tosfos is saying, since it's a mitzvah zman grama sheish bo kares, we treat it like a lav, a negative commandment, and hence a woman is obligated. Kamash malan, therefore I have no exemption of zman grama because of kares. Therefore, if not for the pasuk, I would say a woman is obligated to make sure her son gets gamal. Kamash malan, osa v'lo osa, a woman is exempt. So that's A2. We have A1 Tosfos in Kedushin, which is Lo Kehilchasa. There's no Hegers B'Yom V'Layla, therefore it's not a mitzvah Sasei Shazman Grama. Therefore the Chayav, I need the Pasuk Osa V'Osa to tell me they're exempt. Tosas in the Megillah says, we don't treat it like a Zman Grama, we treat it like a law because it's an Aseh Sheish Bokaris, and hence the women are obligated in negative commandment, and hence I need the Pasuk Osa V'Osa to exclude women. A3, the Ritva. The Ritva writes that when do we say a woman is exempt from a mitzvah Sasei Shazman Grama? That's a mitzvah she's doing on her by herself, like she's shaking lulav, she's sitting in the sukkah, she's blowing shofar, hearing the shofar. But by Mila, the mitzvah is not on her gufa, the mitzvah is on her son. So maybe I would have thought the exemption was man grama if doing something you're doing on something which involves gufa yourself. But something which involves someone else, there is no exemption as man grama. Kamash malan, even though there might not be an exemption as man grama, because it's not the classical mitzvah seish as man grama, nevertheless, based on the special xeris hakasuv, by Yomo Avram as Yitzchak beno kasher tziva oso, we learn oso below osa, and therefore that's why they're exempt. The Ramban, or call it A4, is something similar, but just a little different in terms of that also that only so when it's begufa, but since here it's on your son, and therefore it's kind of like we know this halacha that a beis din, if there's no father, the beis din takes care of it. But lav dafka beis din, anyone who's in charge of the Jewish community or the people involved. So therefore, a woman, what better person than the mother if there's no father around to ensure that it gets done? So I might have thought there's no exemption. A mother has the status of the beis din, and therefore she's obligated in the mitzvah that she'd be exempt. Therefore, she'd be chayiv. Therefore, I need the pasuk to tell me osa v'lo osa. That's the Ramban, a little similar to the Ritva, a little differently. In terms of he wants to compare it to beis din chayiv, while the Ritva just says it's not. It's just not on hers. A5 is a Tosas Harid, similar to the Ritva but a little different. He redefines the texture of the mitzvah. The mitzvah isn't the chatichas arla, daddy cutting the arla, the moa cutting the arla. The mitzvah is that you assure that the bris get done. It's a floating achrayis, as they say, a floating obligation. And therefore, of course it's not as man grama. I have to call the moel, I have to call the caterer, I got to make sure, get the doctor in, I got to do X, Y, and Z, I got to call the people to come to the bris without inviting them. So therefore, there's a lot for me to do. Therefore, it's not a din in chatichas arla, it's a din in the result. In fact, that's what I could tie into machokas achronim, whether the father has to do it or not. If you assume it's the ma'isa mitzvah, then there's more to argue that the father has to do the milah. But if it's the result oriented, as long as he takes care of it, that's what Maharach or Ruah sounds right. That's why there's no shlichus. Because any mitzvah, well, it depends on it. Any mitzvah that has a ma'isa yechayev, it can be done with shlichus. But if it's just result oriented, it's the opposite. So therefore, if it's result oriented, anyone could do it. So therefore, that's what they point out here. The Tosar Rid says it's not as man grama because it's not just the ma'isa mitzvah, it's getting the caterer, the moel, everyone ready. Therefore, it's not a time oriented mitzvah. Therefore, a woman I would think would be obligated. Kamash malan osa v'lo osa. And then there's the Turi Evan. The Turi Evan, A6, I will finally answer for the evening, that the Turi Evan is talking about smicha by karbanos, but we'll just take his yisod he uses and apply it here. So he says when it comes to the mitzvah of lulav, the mitzvah of sukkah, the mitzvah of shofar, matzah, every year you have an annual mitzvah. Right here, 2011, 2012, 5771, 5772. Each year, if you don't do a mitzvah of lulav this year, it's not going to be a makeup, is you have a new obligation next year. So lulav, it's terminated after Sukkot. and then you wait the next sukkah, a new mitzvah comes into place. By Mila, it's a one-time shot. It's not that it's eradicated at night, it's just temporarily suspended. And therefore he points out, that's what the Rabbi writes by the mitzvah binyan beis hamikdash, that the mitzvah is b'yom and not b'layla. The mitzvah is to build it during the day and not night. And yet the Rabbi says women are obligated in this mitzvah. Why isn't it a mitzvah sasei shazman grama? So therefore so others answer because maybe a mitzvah derabim is different. That a woman are only exempt in a mitzvah diyachid, but a mitzvah derabim, women are obligated in, or that it's a difference here because by binyan beis hamikdash, it's the same obligation. It's not like the next day it's a new obligation. It's just temporary suspended at night. We don't. So too by Mila, it's a one-time shot. So if you don't do it that day, so the next day it's not a new mitzvah. It's that same mitzvah you never did. So therefore, that's why I might think a woman's exempt only. She wouldn't be exempt either because it's a public mitzvah, a mitzvah derabim, or because it's the same mitzvah. If it's other mitzvahs, I say it's a new annual mitzvah. Kamash malan osa v'lo osa, that a woman is exempt. My nafkamina, whether we learn like Tosas in Megillah, Tosas in Kedushin, everyone agrees a woman is exempt. Either what's the difference? She's exempt based on osa v'lo osa, or she's exempt based on a mitzvah sasei shazman grama. So let's say a woman owns an Eved Kanani. Is she obligated to make sure that her Eved Kanani gets come out? So if you assume that the exemption is based on Guzman Grama, and we compare Nashim to an Eved Kanani in certain areas, so therefore the woman has an exemption of Guzman Grama, but not with the man, and therefore it would be Chayiv, or perhaps no. That it's Xeris HaKasav, Oso, V'lo Osa, but an Eved Kanani, he's still be obligated. But if you hold it to Zman Grama, so they make a distinction whether the exempt for potential nafkamina about Eved Kanani. So let's summarize. We said the Torah commands Avram and not Sarah. We learned the commandments on the man and not the woman. Kasher tiva osa, osa v'lo osa. What do we need? A pasuk we have to Zman Grama. So Tosas says, Aliva demand Amar, that Milas no legas b'yom u'v'layla, therefore it's not as Zman Grama, I need the pasuk to exempt. Tosas in Megillah, we don't treat it like a Zman Grama because it's Aseh Sheish Bokares, therefore a woman's obligated. Kamash Malan, Osa v'lo Osa, she's exempt. A3, the Ridva, that it's only an exemption if it's on a normal mitzvah Aseh Zman Grama, but here the mitzvah is on someone else, so she's not exempt, either like that or like the Ramban, that she has a din of the Beis Din and therefore she's obligated. Kamash Malan, she's exempt. Or like Tosas already redefines the texture of the mitzvah. It's not the act of cutting, but it's the act of ensuring that it gets done. So therefore, that's why. Therefore, a woman would be chayev, would come to pasuk to exempt her. And then we had that was Tosas Harid. And we have based on the Turi Even that the one time, if it's the same mitzvah, so you're not exempt. It's only the other mitzvahs that they go once Sukkot is over, the lulav is gone, and a new mitzvah comes. But by binyan beis hamikdash or by Mila, it's the same mitzvah. The night is temporarily suspended, and therefore a woman's really obligated. It wouldn't be as much. There's no exemption as man grama. Comes also below to teach me she's exempt. Perhaps in nafkamina, whether a woman is exempt based on Osa v'lo osa, mitzvah shazman grama, perhaps whether, an Eved Kanani, a woman who owns Eved Kanani, where she's chayav to kamaltar. And then we didn't get into, maybe another time we'll get into, it's true, it's clear a woman is exempt, either based on Osa v'lo osa or zman grama, or both, but can she be a moef? That's a discussion in the Gemara, but a zara machokas in the Gemara, different nafkaminas based on one source, whether a non-Jew or moef. The bottom line, we'll go into a share another time, the bottom line is, and from pure halacha, if you have a woman who knows how to do a circumcision, she's the only one around, so the halacha is that a woman is kosher to be a mohelas.